Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unity of Missoula. Father's Day for all the fathers in the world and here today. And we're going to start off with special music with Janine Flautin.
Thank you, Jeff. Well, let's see, it's Juneteenth and Father's Day, and our theme is Imagine Good. So picking special music was The Impossible Dream. That's right, that's a joke. But my dad really supported me in becoming a musician. So this is also for him. To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right that unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach that unreachable star. Yes, this is my quest, to follow that star. No matter how far, fight without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. Yes, I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will be peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest, and the world will be better for this, that one woman scorned and covered with scars, that she strove with her last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable stars. Woo! Thank you.
Good morning. Happy Father's Day. My name is Jermaine Haberman. I think I know everybody here. And I want to welcome you to Unity of Missoula. And we're encouraging for people to make the choice of whether they want to wear a mask or not. And the board voted to allow people to make that change. Can you hear me okay? Better? Okay. So with that said, let's just wave and say hi to everyone. Now, as we move into the more formal part of our service, let's remember Unity of Missoula is a team ministry founded on the 5 basic in me and in everyone. I create my experiences by what I choose to think, what I feel, and what I believe. And through affirmative prayer and meditation, I connect with God and bring out the good in my life. I do and give my best by living the truth I know. I make a difference. This is the time in the service when we share together the reading from the Daily Word, a bi-monthly meditation magazine published by Unity Worldwide Ministries. Today, the word is Father's Blessing. I bless all fathers with thoughts of gratitude. I am grateful for fathers, grandfathers, stepfathers, and all father figures who care for children and families. I pray they are always called to follow their guidance and to act to express divine love. I envision their hearts and minds opening to receive blessings of strength, patience, and tenderness. I see them supported in all they are called upon to do and comforted during times of struggle. I pray also for children young and old as they remember their fathers. May cherished memories bring smiles and warmth, and may the love remain alive forever in hearts and minds. And for all those on a healing or forgiveness journey, I pray that divine love leads and comforts them on a path towards lasting peace. May the peace and love of God fill their hearts today and every day. And from Numbers 6, verse 24, the Lord bless you and keep you. Here are a few things we want to tell you about this week. Next Sunday, our speaker will be Linda Andrus. Our June theme is Imagining Good, and June's power ability is imagination. The color is light blue, and the representatives are the disciples Nathaniel and the woman with the oil. Our online book group meets Mondays at noon, and they are reading Radical Compassion by Tara Brach. It's an excellent book. To get the link to the online group, please talk to Nancy Leifer. Our in-person Unity book group meets Tuesdays at 12:30, and they are reading Unity and the World Religions by Paul John Roach. Our A Course in Miracles study group meets Wednesdays at 12:30. And we are holding a time of silent prayer and meditation for peace and support of the people of Ukraine and Russia every Thursday at 7 p.m. And if you can't attend, please take a few moments to join us from a distance. We know prayers work miracles. And please join us this Tuesday at 7 p.m. for a presentation on climate change and what we can do to help combat it from Wendy Hansen-Ferry, who is an LED certified environmentalist working with several climate-focused groups in the Seattle area. Yeah. Thanks so much to those of you who continue to support our Unity community through your tithes and love offerings. And there is a basket in the foyer for donations from those who are physically here. And you may also mail us your offerings at 546 South Avenue West, Missoula, Montana. The church's 10% tithe this week will go to the Northwest region of the Unity Worldwide Ministries. Please hold them in your heart as I affirm divine love. As I affirm divine love is the source of our bounty. Divine love as us blesses and multiplies all that we are and have, all that we give, and all that we receive. Let's affirm this together. Divine love is the source of our bounty. Divine love as us blesses and multiplies all that we are and have, all that we give, and all that we receive. Before we move on to the talk for this week, I will affirm Unity's primary affirmation and ask you to join me in saying it 2 more times. There is only one presence and one power in my life, the all-loving goodness of God. Together, there is only one presence and one power in my life, the all-loving goodness of God. And together again, there is only one presence and one power in my life, the all-loving goodness of God. In addition, here is our Missoula Unity affirmation, and I will affirm it once and ask you to join me. We are Unity of Missoula. We are a radiating center of divine love, open and accessible to all. We are God's light, peace, and joy wherever we are. Together, we are Unity of Missoula. We are a radiating center of divine love, open and accessible to all. We are God's light, peace, and joy wherever we are. Unity of Missoula maintains a circle of people who have made a commitment to pray every single day for others at their request. And if you have names of people to hold in prayer for a month, you may place their names in the prayer box located in front of the podium, or call the church and leave a message with those names. They will be sent out to our prayer circle for 30 days of prayer and forwarded to Silent Unity as well. So please join me in prayer for a moment as we hold all of them in our hearts. And you may also now say aloud or silently names of those you wish to bring into this time of prayer. Dear God, we hold these friends and loved ones in our hearts. We behold their light as expressions of the indwelling Christ. We release them to your care and affirm divine order in their lives and in ours. Thank you, God. Amen. Our speaker this week is Michael Bechard. Michael has been coming to Unity for quite a while, I think in the 80s when Jeff and I started coming. And he's been so involved in this community as a board member, as president of the board. I can't even think right now all the things that you've been involved in. He's currently a chaplain. Choir. Oh, yes, choir. Use it. Yes, YOU. Just every capacity. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all your gifts. And thank you for being here and speaking today. We look forward to it. Yeah.
Okay, is that going to work? Okay, thank you. Good morning to all of you on YouTube. Thank you for being here with us. And all of you who are here, thank you very much. We have a lot of people that are gone, and we have a few people sick at the moment. So just hold all of them in our hearts. So the power this month is imagination. And our focus is imagining good. Also, it's Father's Day. We have several different things happening. Thanks for mentioning all those, Janine. And speaking of Father's Day, there is a men's group that's being started up here at the church. And the book they're going to be starting with is called On Fire. It's the 4th of July barbecue gone bad. You can join me with this. Now I walk in beauty. Beauty lies before me. Beauty lies behind me, above and below me. Now there's a prayer somewhat similar to that is used by some of the more traditionalists in the Navajo Nation. And they a lot of times begin their morning at sunrise by being in prayer. And with it, they have rituals that they do, and they chant or sing the prayer that they use. And all of this, the singing and the chanting, the connect with the Spirit, because that's what they're doing. They're connecting with the Spirit through this part of the mind, with this right hemisphere of the brain. To imagine good is in the imagination, but a different kind of imagination. Also, it's important as we open to good, to allow ourselves to open ourselves to the connectedness within us. This hemisphere, this right hemisphere of the mind allows us to connect not only to the spirit of who we are, but to all things. This is the place of connection. And so it's important as we do this to open ourselves and to extend ourselves and ask for help, to ask for all those connections with the divinity that is us, to be there and support us in that holding the goodness in that moment. And then the third part is to stay in the goodness, to commit oneself to being in that place. If I say I'm staying in the goodness, and then all of a sudden I get upset with the first person that cuts me off, or somebody is careless with whatever, all of a sudden I've stepped outside of that thing that I'm holding. So it's so important to stay mindful of that place, that space within us, and that connectedness. Imagination is hugely useful. And I looked it up, hugely is a word. I know a lot of times I use words that are not really words, according to some people. So I looked up hugely, but it was. And it was a good word for this, because there's a tremendous power in the imagination that we have. It allows us to imagine beyond the world of our senses. It allows us to go beyond the world that the world believes in, that is reinforced constantly in everything we read and hear and listen to. But you know that there are limits to our senses. You know that our hearing has limitations. We do not hear the entire spectrum of sound. We do not see the entire light spectrum. So what is real? This limited things that we see and hear and experience, this, the senses say this is solid. But we could look at this through another mind. We could look at it through the right hemisphere, and all of a sudden we'd see it very differently, and we'd experience each other very, very differently. So what is real? And this is why mystics come. This is why Jesus came. This is why Buddha did all the work that he did. They were guided to go deeper into who they were, to go deeper into the experience of happiness. How can I be happy? Because they could see that the physical reality that we experience has limitations. It's always in flux. It's always in change. Our bodies are continuously, building and deteriorating. Objects around us and nature are being born and they are dying. Universes are doing the same thing. Everything is in that change. And the problem with that is that there's no happiness. We seek our happiness in what we see. So we grab onto each other, we grab onto things, but we've already experienced its impermanence. We've experienced the suffering. We are experiencing the fears of those realities. Now, they don't come to try to scare us. They come because none of that is totally true. That there's more to who you and I are. So from some mystical writings, I've read this before, but this is a part I thought it would be pertinent to now. The Lord is never unmindful of us, even for a moment. Now, this comes from beings that have an ability to go beyond even what normal world religions believe is the ultimate, because there's so much more. So they come to try to help us to awaken to that awareness that's always inside of you and me. We're never separate from this connection, as they just told us. He is always looking after us. They only call it a he because it's an energy that moves outwards. It's a description of energy, the energy that goes out and creates, the energy that's receptive and takes things in. We have never been separate from him. He is always with us and always pervades our entire being. Now, sometimes people get confused. How can God be within? How can I go in and find this thing that's greater than even what we see? Well, that depends on what part of the mind that we use. The imagination, we need to use that and to open to something far greater of who you and I are and what's available to us in terms of our experience. Now I walk in beauty. Over the years, we've talked about the two hemispheres of the brain. And each hemisphere has a unique function and a unique personality. And we saw examples of that with that brain researcher, Jill Bolt Taylor, when she had the stroke and she was able to observe the hemispheres as the stroke would shut down this left hemisphere. And researchers have continued to research this. The main point that I want to bring out this morning is that in each hemisphere, the world appears very, very differently. Again, the question, what is real? In the body, we are predominantly using this left hemisphere. Language, a lot of different things come from here. Also, it says because it sees energy in little holograms of energy, which makes everything look like it's separate. And out of that comes, I am separate. And that's why you and I think we are separate from each other. This is why we are in constant fear, because it sets up a whole dynamic of being separate from our goodness, being separate from whatever it is that we need or want. Vulnerable, fearful of each other and everything around us. All that sets that up. This is the ego part. The part that thinks it's separate from God and from each other. The other thing that's important about it, it's limited, it's finite. It only knows a limited amount. It's similar to a computer. It has what's been the inputs, but it's not able to go beyond that input very easily. It can do things with the input that are fantastic, but it's limited, and that's an important understanding. Now, the right hemisphere, this is the more creative part of us. So the creative activities, we are accessing this part of ourself a lot more. So music. So a lot of spiritual chanting and singing and imagery, all of this helps open up this part of ourself. Now, the thing that I thought was really interesting, well, let me continue with that. Not only is it creative, that in that sphere, we see more in terms of energy. We see more in terms of connectedness. We see more in terms of the infinity of things. And also we're able to access and see the spiritual component of who we are and the world around us. Now, the book groups, both of them read Bliss Brain here maybe a year ago or so. And there was a really interesting thing in that book, I thought. And that's that they were talking about a part of the brain that is designed to integrate those two hemispheres so that information can go back and forth, so that they can work together. And what they found is that when people meditate, that area of the brain lights up. Also, they discovered that that area of the brain grows. As you know, parts of the brain grow and develop as we use it. Well, that's true with this. And so this is why the mystics come and they have all these strange things, meditation, mindfulness. Because part of what this is doing, it's opening up this part which integrates, which now opens up this part that knows the spiritual side of who you and I are more and more. Also allows us to be in balance, to be in the world, but still at the same time to expand who we are. Einstein, why would he say imagination is more important than knowledge? Why would he say something like that? And I think it's because, as you know, he a lot of times would have insights. And then he would spend years and years trying to understand that insight through the use of the intellect and the things that we had available. But he became more and more aware of how this was so much greater. This could take him to places that this part of the mind could not go. He also said, this was kind of fascinating. He said that in a letter that he had written to his daughter at one time, he said, there is an extremely powerful force that so far science has not found a formal explanation for. It is a force that includes and governs all others and is even beyond any phenomena operating in the universe. So beyond the phenomena world, the physical realities that we're aware of. It has not yet been identified by us. This universal force, he said, is love. And that's interesting that he was able to start to glimmer that just through the work he was doing and the movement that he had within this part of this mind. It's important that we're aware of the limits of the two hemispheres. It's important that we realize that what we have to do is we have to make a choice. Every moment we need to make a choice in terms of when I'm experiencing fear, when I'm experiencing separation, when I'm experiencing the impossible, the unsolvable problems that are coming before the world or in our lives. At that point, those moments, I have to make a choice. I can not make a choice and stay in this limited part of my being that is so used to trying to solve all the problems, because it's the thing that sees what I believe in. I have to make a conscious choice to go, wait a minute, I'm connected to something much greater. Help me to see this differently. This starts to open me up to this other hemisphere, this part that is able to go beyond the limited knowledge that I have and to go beyond that, or that you have. Periodically, I'll be surprised when all of a sudden I know that I'm supposed to bring this with me. And it's the thing is, I think this rebar got bent maybe 20 years ago. Now, as most of you know, originally this was straight. This was a straight piece of rebar. And I asked our little Google Mini about rebar, and it's made of steel. And the cheapest rebar requires 40,000 pounds per square inch of pressure to bend it. And then the different grades go on up. 40,000 pounds per square inch of pressure. Now, I was in a situation where, I don't know, there was probably at least 25 people. They paired up, and they were supposed, the assignment was to bend this rebar by just putting it on the throat like that. And that's about as hard as I can do without choking. And not to use their hands. And they were to bend it. And of course, all those pairs, they end up with a straight rebar when they got all done. And why? Well, because the natural tendency is to go, okay, wait a minute, this thing is steel. There's no way that I'm going to bend it having this on my throat. Now, the only way I know how to do it is I'm an individual and you're an individual. So the only thing we can do is use our might, to use our limited will, the will of this little limited body, and we can push. But of course, by putting it on the throat, that made a very quick limitation to how hard we could push. Well, fortunately, the next day I was able to get somebody, and actually it was Val Ann's husband, and Gene, I believe is his name. And I asked him if he'd be willing to experiment, and he was open to doing this. And so it was like, okay, how do we think about this differently? Now, I didn't know. I had no idea how to bend this. But as I thought about it, I thought, well, okay, first of all, I don't think the solution is going to be in the idea that I'm an ego, that I'm an individual, that I'm separate. And what I believe in is that the greatest power is love. So how can I use love, in this experiment? And so what came was that I was opening myself, okay, how to do this differently, because obviously this part was not doing it. And so what happens, we end up focusing on each other. Let's imagine this as a problem, world problems. One of the keys was to, first of all, take our total attention away from this. We had it on our throats, but we were going to hold our attention totally on each other and each other's eyes and think only about our love for each other. That was the only thing we could do. And the goal, of course, was to get so concentrated that everything else left the mind and that all there was just this love between these two beings. And so that's what we did. And I don't know, maybe it was like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. We were trying to keep it up on our throats, and we were just totally concentrated, not even thinking, totally let go that there was anything between us. It was just, I was thinking about, I want to embrace him. I just felt love and I'm going to hold him. That's all I thought about. Well, all of a sudden, it was like waves, little waves started going through this, just started doing this real small, got bigger and bigger and bigger, and the waves got really like an earthquake. And all of a sudden, this whole bar just collapsed and fell on the ground. And we stepped forward, we were able to embrace each other. And all it took was just being willing to imagine something that my intellect said is impossible. I mean, there's no way I can have 40,000. I didn't know that, good, thank God. That would be another little thing, another little block. I mean, it was enough to know that it's metal. I didn't even know it was steel. But I knew it was like too hard for me to bend. And remember too, it wasn't a bending like this. It was a bending that was through the whole length of it, which is even more difficult. Like I say, I'm constantly invited back to this because I'm constantly being taken deeper and deeper, even though got to experience this. It's still learning after 20 years. It's still taking me to new places within this other part of my being, our being. For we're not separate. We're not separate. If we could slip in our meditation or whatever, enough into this part of ourself, we would all of a sudden start to have experiences. Everything would be the same, but the relationship would be totally different. I've had that happen many times, but I remember it's sort of like all of a sudden the fear disappears. I'm no longer trying to save my life. I'm trying to help the people that are trying to save me. Now, nothing's changed. All the people are still there, but the relationship is completely changed. And what is being seen and experienced in the being is totally different. It's not one of fear. It's one of love and connectedness and compassion and service. It's very fascinating. So what I see and what I experience is a function of the hemisphere that we are experiencing through. It's not a function of truth. It's not a function of real reality. And it's so important to remember that. So that here at Unity, the things that we talk about, when we come here to remind each other, we're reminding ourselves of a reality beyond the limited, a reality that is infinite. And in order to experience that, we have to consciously start to make choices. We have to say, help me see this differently. I'm feeling a judgment, an old judgment towards somebody. Can I stop and say, wait a minute, this is closing my heart. This is not my truth. Our truth is love. God is love, and we are a part of God. We are not separate. We are the Christ. We just don't experience it. We're not the Christ because we don't know it, but we are the Christ. We are one. And that's what all this is about. And that with Easter that we just went through, it wasn't about somebody forgiving your sins, because love has never, ever judged any of us. And so as we think about Father and our fathers and ourselves as fathers, remember that. Remember that God has never, ever judged anything. It's only about love. How can I see this stitch differently? How can I see it through you? Open ourselves. Open. Just open. You're already connected. All the truth is there. The truth of our oneness is there. It's just learning to open and become receptive. It's not about trying. Like Dan Comstock said, it's not about me trying to get to God. It's about me knowing that God is. Imagine. Use that power that's within us. And let it go beyond what you're being told. Let it hold and ask, show me how to see through the truth of our love and our oneness. Thank you. So let's just take a moment to open to the wholeness of ourselves. And remember, it's not about judging anything. Each hemisphere serves a purpose, allows us to be here and to do the work that we're doing. But we do have a part of us that shows us how to integrate and allow us to travel back and forth and to travel further and further into the infinity of who we are, the infinity of our love. So let's just come into the moment. And this is through just breathing, letting your attention come down into the body, into the present moment, this place of our divine connection with our truth, that we are spirit, that we are infinite, that we are love. And so continue to breathe and relax into that deeper truth, into the sacredness of who you are and who we are. As we breathe, let us relax and allow ourselves to just relax into every person in this room, gently opening to our connectedness, gently opening to our love. And in this place, we are opening ourselves to the truth of our oneness. We are one with all that is. In truth, there is no separation. There is only God. There is only love. And we're here to gently open and allow that truth to grow in our awareness, to grow in our experience. And those of you who have been fathers in this lifetime, just hold yourselves in that love. Allow the infinity of your heart. Allow the infinite power of your heart and your love. For it is one in God. Allow it to embrace your fathers and your grandfathers, no matter their choices, no matter their challenges. We hold them in their truth, that they may know that they are forgiven, that they are loved, and that they are loved. And for all the suffering on this planet, experienced now and through history, for all the pain and suffering and struggles in the Ukraine, just embrace it into the oneness, the infinite oneness of our truth, that there is only God. We don't have to understand. We just imagine something greater. Imagining love holding all of those people in their fears, in their struggles, in their anxieties, in their losses, knowing that they are not separate from us, holding them in our hearts. And those who are playing the role of perpetrators, let's let go of the illusions of the ego. Let's let go of having to understand how this works. Let our imagination expand and hold all people in their truth, knowing that many have layers and layers and layers of hurt and pain that block the experience of their truth. And so we hold them in our hearts. We hold them in the love of God that judges none. And we allow the power of that love that is our truth. And we hold every being on this planet in its truth, that we are one, that we are loved, that we are forgiven. And we give thanks for this moment, for this grace, and for the gentleness and the good that is present right now. Amen. Oh. Thank you, Jeff. And so we're going to hold the prayer of protection together. And as you know, James Dillett Freeman, the poet of unity, created this during World War II, that the soldiers could have some way to keep centering themselves in all the terror and the fear and the pain of what they were going through. So together, let's say the prayer of protection. No, that's not the prayer of protection, is it? Yeah, it is. Okay. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. All is well. Amen. Now, if you'd like to stand and form a circle, and Jeff's going to sing our peace song.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as our creator, family are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
We are the peace on earth. We're the ones who can see it and hold it and imagine it. And so as you go out into that world and radiate the truth of who we all are, remember to just relax and to have fun. And thank you.
I didn't know you.